and welcome to my channel. Today's video, I'm talking about everything I watched in March. So let's just jump right into it. The first movie I watched this month is a movie called Ghoul, which is a found footage horror movie that's currently streaming on Tubi. It's about this film crew that are researching this cannibalism epidemic in the Ukraine. So they go over there to film at this house where this infamous murder happened. They come face to face with an evil spirit of this dude who was an actual serial killer over in Ukraine. He was called the Butcher of Rostov, the Rostov Ripper, the Red Ripper. He killed a lot of people. He confessed to 56 murders and was tried for 53 of them in April 1992. So this isn't an old murder. This is fairly recent. I really like the concept behind this film. I love found footage horror movies. I love when they're set in a place that's foreign to me. I love that there's actual history behind the story. But this one I just didn't like. It didn't do anything new. It was pretty generic, and the American filmmakers that go over to do this, they were so unbearable. I didn't care about them. I was just waiting for them to die. It didn't really surprise me. It didn't scare me. It just was run-of-the-mill, nothing special. It kind of gave me Chernobyl vibes, Chernobyl Diary vibes, but I actually think that one's better. Then I watched another horror movie on Tubi called Found. This one was recommended to me by a few people on YouTube in my comments, and yeah, this movie was really disturbing. It really bothered me and it stuck with me for days. So this centers on a 12-year-old boy who discovers that his older brother is a serial killer. Within the first 5 minutes of the movie, this little boy sneaks into his brother's room to spy on him, and he discovers a head in a box or a suitcase or whatever. And he is living with this secret of who his brother really is, and he becomes obsessed with it, and he also has a really dysfunctional home life, and he's also obsessed with movies, and he rents this movie called Headless. And at this point, when we get to that point of the movie, that's when I was really disturbed, because the movie that they're watching is essentially like a snuff film, and the violence and the gore that happened in this film was so realistic. It was disgusting. It made me so uncomfortable. It was very disturbing, and the film just goes into a crazy finale that is just not easy to watch. It's hard to take in, and it just feels real because the budget is so low. I will say though that the acting is really bad. It's not good, but I think it's cool that they were able to do so much with such a small budget. Like, the gore effects look real, and it made me feel dirty and like I needed to take a shower after. But, you know, I had issues with it. Our main character and his father, they are racist and they throw around the N-word a lot. I just feel like it didn't really explore that anymore, other than just having him say these words just to indicate that he's a bad person. But it's like, I don't feel like they needed to do that because he's killing people. That's indicating that he's a bad person. So I don't know. Everybody says that I need to watch Headless, which they then went and made the actual movie Headless that's featured in Found, but I have zero desire to watch that. I couldn't even deal with what I was seeing in Found. So if you're into disturbing stuff, this one's for you. Then, keeping up with the disturbing trend this month, I checked out The Sadness, which is currently streaming on Shudder. This one is very dark, very disturbing, very bleak, very gruesome. It's filled with sexual violence, all kinds of violence, and SA. It's just not a good time. But also, again, I felt like I was kind of numb to it all because it's almost so much. You get so much of it. It's just over the top and almost cartoonish to a point where I was just like, what is this? So I don't know if I was disturbed as I thought I was gonna be. I feel like I'm becoming desensitized to all of this stuff. So this is about a young couple who are living their lives and they're trying to escape this city as this weird virus breaks out and it turns people into basically maniacs. This is like the Crazies to 11. These people are animals. They like to SA people, they like to murder and torture. Like, it's filled with everything you can possibly think of that will make you upset. Within the first 15 minutes of the film, when the stuff happens, it just happens in the blink of an eye when things kick into play, and it's so violent, it's so quick and aggressive, it's just shocking. And then we're following our lead character, and he hears over the loudspeaker, there's like, I feel like it's the police or the government or whatever, and they're explaining what's happening, and they're saying what's gonna happen to all the men and what's gonna happen to all the women, and you can imagine what they plan on doing to the women isn't great. That sets the tone for the rest of the movie. You're like, oh shit, this is gonna be rough. It is so bloody. I don't think I've seen a movie as bloody as this one, but it's so bloody that I was like laughing at times because it's just like insane. It's insane. But yeah, there's a villain in this who is just a normal dude who wants to assault our main female protagonist, and he chases her throughout the film, and it's scary. You're like, holy shit, I really hope he doesn't get her. That was like horrifying because that's real life. You know that once he gets her, it's all bets are off. So you do really feel for the characters. You're worried for them and you want them to survive. I've heard people compare it to a Serbian film, which I haven't seen, but now I'm like, maybe I can handle a Serbian film. I don't think I liked it, but I didn't dislike it. I just don't think I would ever watch it again. But it's currently streaming on Shudder. Highly recommend it if you like disturbing movies. Then I watched a really fun one. I lightened up the mood a bit and checked out Popcorn from 1991. This one was so much fun, and it's currently streaming on Shudder, or I watched it while it was streaming on Shudder. And it's about this college film class that are trying to make money for their film department. So they decide to hold this horror marathon at their local theater, which has a dark history. And the history involves this film cultist. He was a guy who I think was like into Satanism and all that stuff and making extreme horror stuff. And he had a cult behind him. And he went nuts and he killed a bunch of people in this theater, and he might come back when this horror movie marathon occurs. So I just thought it was so much fun. Like, it just felt like a cozy horror slasher, and the kills were very inventive, and I like that they had to do with the movies that were playing during the horror movie marathon, which you actually get to see. They show like movies that are like Mosquito, and then they have a mosquito fly out into the audience to scare the audience. So it's very interactive and everybody's in costume, and it just made me long for this. I want something like that. I've never experienced anything like that, to have a horror movie marathon that's like an immersive show, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I've always wanted to go to a live showing of that because it just seems so much fun. It was so much fun. I loved it. I love that there's references. It felt very meta and ahead of its time. Very much like Scream, except the characters aren't self-aware. They don't know what's happening like the characters in Scream, but the villain is very unique and over-the-top, cartoonish, fun. It's a campy blast. I highly recommend this one. I think it quickly became a new favorite, and the cast is excellent. We have an excellent cast. The effects are great. It's just so much fun. I highly recommend it if you love campy 80s, 90s horror slashers. Then I watched The Found Footage Phenomenon on Shudder. This is a documentary about the found footage genre. So it basically tracks the history of the found footage film, where it started and how it's evolved over the years. And I thought it was really interesting. It was very in-depth, a very in-depth look at the genre and how it actually started. It made me so nostalgic thinking back about the time when Blair Witch came out and how insane the hype was around it, because everybody thought the 3 kids in the film really went missing. It was the early age of the internet, and I remember the previews for it, and I remember being at my aunt's house. She had internet. I didn't have internet. So I remember looking it up on the web along with going on my Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen website at the time, because variety. I had a lot of variety in my life. Horror, Mary-Kate and Ashley, those were my 2 loves. So anyway, it was just so cool to think back about that and how the internet really helped Blair Witch excel and how that can never be replicated today. It's just so cool. I don't know, I just thought it was really interesting. And they also talked about a cannibal holocaust, and I got a little bit more insight into that film. I don't know, I just always prejudged that movie like as something I never want to watch because it sounds disturbing. It has animal death in it, which is the major factor for me avoiding it. But hearing the film critics discuss it, it just made me want to watch it. So I think I might watch a Cannibal Holocaust, guys, especially if I can handle things like the sadness, and I feel like I've handled some really dark stuff. Should I watch it? Let me know what you think. And then I watched Nosferatu from 1922. This was on Joe Bob's Last Drive-In. This was my first time watching it. I really liked it. It's basically Dracula, but different, and it's a silent film, which I never thought I'd like. It's really interesting. I had to do a lot of reading, and I got really tired while I was reading because there's a lot of text on the screen sometimes, but the performances, it's just so cool watching these actors give their all. Like, they have to be very emotive and emotional, and you have to be able to read their face, and they were just so good at getting you into the film and pulling you in. They had such screen presence, and I thought the story was really well done, what they were able to do with it, and I really liked it. And that's it for movies that month. I didn't watch a ton of movies because I spent a lot of time watching TV. One of the shows I had a blast watching was Outer Range, which is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. It stars Josh Brolin, and it's about this family who lives on this ranch in Wyoming, and things go horribly wrong, and this black hole opens up on their land, and things get crazy from there. This show was so good. It's so well written. The characters are excellent. The cast is phenomenal, and it just is, the music, everything, the direction, and I loved every minute of it. It's a thriller mystery with sci-fi elements to it. It just felt big and epic, and I had a blast with it, and I hope it comes back for season 2. I highly recommend it because it's just a phenomenal show. I also checked out The Staircase on HBO, which is a dramatization of the Michael Peterson, Kathleen Peterson case. So for those of you who don't know, there was a documentary of this on Netflix, and it was about this dude named Michael Peterson. He finds his wife dead at the bottom of the staircase, and he gets put on trial for her murder. While he was on trial, he was approached by a film crew to document the experience, and this dramatization shows the case, and it also shows the behind the scenes stuff that you didn't really get to see with him interacting with this film crew, and you get a little bit more insight into Michael Peterson's family and see their dynamics a little bit more, and I thought that was really interesting. Kathleen Peterson is played by Toni Collette. You also get to see her die 3 times as they test out different theories of how Kathleen could have died, and it is the most realistic death. Each time was so realistic and super uncomfortable to watch. It was very disturbing. It was just so well done, and Colin Firth plays Michael Peterson. He's excellent. He captures his essence perfectly. I highly recommend this show. I think it's only like 6 episodes. It was really well done, and I also recommend the documentary if you haven't watched it. I finished Stranger Things 4, which came out at the end of the month. I've already watched it twice. I loved it so much. I think this is the best the show has been since season 1, and it had 2 of my favorite episodes of the entire show. Episode 4, which is Dear Billy, and then episode 7, which I think is called Battle at Hawkins Lab or something along those lines. The whole theme of the season is love, the power of love, friendship, trauma and abuse, and overcoming that. And I really liked what they did with the season. The music was excellent. Episode 4 just took my breath away. There's a sequence, it involves a Kate Bush song. It's so emotional, so beautiful to watch, and what the scene represents, it's just excellent. I love it so much. It gives me goosebumps. There's also this new big bad named Vecna, who can essentially tap into people's minds and learn their traumas and learn their insecurities and their guilt and their deepest, darkest secrets and what's bothering them, and he uses that as a weapon. I really loved the Hawkins storyline. I thought that was the best of the season, and we also were introduced to new characters. One who I fell in love with immediately is a character named Eddie Munson, who is the head of the Hellfire Club. God, I love him. That is my type of man. And I love the Duffer Brothers are so good at creating these minor characters who you just immediately connect with. No matter if they're good or bad, you just love them. And Eddie was just so charismatic, and he had this presence. It hypnotized me. And he's layered. He comes off as this punk kid who's almost kind of like a bully, but then we see a softer side to him, and he's just a sweetie pie, and I love him. And I love Steve and Dustin, and we're getting all of those good relationships that I've missed. And this season was long. The episodes were long. I loved it, and I think we're getting 2 more episodes in July to finish off the season, volume 2, and all I know is the finale is almost 3 hours long, which I'm okay with. I'm all for that. Thank you. Give me as much as you can, because we're gonna have to wait years before we get the next season, and season 5 is gonna be the end. I'm so nervous. I think that characters are gonna start dying. This season felt dangerous again, and I am very nervous. I don't think everybody's gonna make it out alive. Let me know if you've watched it, what your thoughts are, and do you love Eddie as much as I do? Because, whew. And there you have it. That's everything I watched in May. I didn't get a chance to watch everything I wanted to watch. Am I gonna get to it in June? Probably not. But it's not a game, okay? I have a life, okay? Do I have a life? No, I sit on my couch and scroll TikTok videos of Eddie Munson edits for hours. They're all the same scenes, but I can't get enough of it. Anyway, let me know what you watched recently, if you checked out the things that I checked out, what you thought of Stranger Things, what you thought of The Sadness, if I should watch Cannibal Holocaust for the first time. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Bye.